The Euros always feel a bit like a mini World Cup to me because, quite frankly, Europe is the home of world football. It's got the biggest clubs, it's got the biggest leagues, the biggest players, the most famous stadiums, the most well renowned fan groups, and on top of all of that, you've got the Champions League and the Euros, where it is the biggest nations in European football competing to be the champions of Europe. And over all the iterations of the Euros I've watched growing up, it's always been action packed. There's always been storylines unfolding, stars made, stars faded, and everything else kind of in between. And as we set up for what will be the biggest Euros ever, it is ever expanding, and it feels like in preparation for this video today, everyone is in it somehow, because I had to search far and wide to get all of the confirmed squads announced for the Euros so that we can preview them on the video today, as well as try and predict who's going to qualify from the groups, who could be the dark horses for the tournament, the unexpected golden boot winner. And also in the video today, I want you guys to nominate and decide what is the best squad announcement. Some of these are really funny and really quite clever, and some of them you will have no idea who's in the squad, what position they play. You will be pulling your hair out. I want to find out from you guys in the comment section what's the best and what's the worst at any point in the video. If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers, guys. We cannot do that without your support. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, Group A is one that's really close to my heart, of course, having Scotland in it, but we're also facing the host Germany. And then when you add in Hungary and Switzerland, this is just a group that screams out banana skin. You know, we've seen Germany be rather unconvincing in big tournaments over recent years. Scotland certainly in the ascendancy, but Hungary and Switzerland have ammunition, have real quality players in their ranks, and can get the points for themselves. Expectations around Julian Nagelsmann's Germany is kind of muted. You know, the Germans aren't coming into this, although being the hosts, with, you know, their usual kind of brash confidence. And when you look at the squad, they've got a lot of really world-class players, high-end operators in all sorts of positions. And to be honest with you, when you've got the likes of Manuel Neuer in goals, you've got Florian Wirtz, Musiala, I would even put Schlotterbeck into that as like a kind of rising generation of world-class quality to supplement the likes of Gunda and the retiring Toni Kroos. And in a tournament situation, you know, it's Mr. Real Madrid, you know what they do in tournaments, and, you know, it feels like it could be a great one for him as a swan song. But the German, when you look up front, there's no Miroslav Klose, there's no Maxi Gomez, there's no, you know, big powerhouse, golden boot winning potential striker. I know Thomas Muller has been there and done that and maybe can do it again. We'll soon see. But normally when you look at Germany, you do see that talisman in attack and you think, yeah, it's going to be theirs for the taking. The Scotland announcement was one of my favourites. I'm a big fan of the teletext announcement, and Steve Clarke named a really strong squad that he's been, you know, it's rather tried and tested throughout qualification and the last tournament cycle. And, you know, Scotland definitely come into this in one of the best shapes they've had in recent kind of national team history. And when, you know, the opening game of the group is going to be Scotland versus Germany, and Scotland probably aren't going to get anything out of that if they do, but huge springboard, huge advantage on, you know, the rest of the group, and maybe helps them ensure qualification. Hungary, although they don't look like a great squad, when you've got someone like Dominik Szoboszlai who can be like the Gareth Bale effect, on top of having a really strong goalkeeper in Galashe, a really strong centre-back in Willie Orban, and even in midfield, Kerkez, Kleinheisler, you know, these guys can make the difference. They're no pushovers. And the Switzerland squad is never really that impressive, but no one makes mugs out of Switzerland. They've always got a really strong defence, and they always seem to take a chance or two in the match. So, you know, this is not a group that's going to be easily won or decided, and all four, you know, squads are really strong. It's hard to imagine that Germany are going to finish this with 9 points. So it's really a case of, for all the other teams in the group, you know, can one of them take the points off of Germany, whether it be in the first game or the last game? Scotland's last game of the group is Hungary, and you can just feel that that is going to be a do-or-die game on the last day of the group. And I do think that's probably where it's going to come down to ultimately. Switzerland, although they have the experience of kind of been there, done that, they've got a lot of good quality in their team. I don't think they beat Scotland. I think Scotland can beat Switzerland, and subsequently, last game of the group, I think Switzerland could beat Hungary. So I think this could be Germany and Scotland. I was about to say Hungary there for some strange reason, but Germany and Scotland qualifying from this one. Now, out of the 6 teams that will finish third, 4 of them will progress to the knockout stages, and you feel that that rule has been really put in place when you see Group B. Spain, Croatia, Italy, and Albania. It just really does feel like if you lost one of those teams in the group stages, the tournament would be worse off as a result. Albania have got absolutely no chance of getting anything out of this. Now, in the outfield positions, they've maybe got 3 or 4 players that are used to playing at the elite end of European football. But, you know, against Spain, Italy, Croatia, they're just going to be an absolute mismatch. Italy, who are the holders of the Euros, name a very, very strong provisional squad. And the thing that I find really exciting about this Italy squad is a lot of them are kind of newer faces, newer players to the international scene. It is really a next kind of generation that's coming through at Italy at the moment, you know, not just in midfield and attack, but if you look at the actual defence and you imagine what the best defence is going to be composed of, you're going to see players like Calafiore, DiMarco, Mancini, and yeah, probably Buongiorno, maybe Cambiaso, but probably Buongiorno. In the international scene, I don't think, like, especially for a major tournament, that's been an Italy backed line that's not had like Chiellini, Bonucci, Bersagli, Nesta, Costa Curta, you know, Cannavaro, but that litany of world-class defenders just handing over the Italy centre-back position. And I'm not saying any of these guys aren't world-class, but off the top of my head, none of them are Champions League winners or, you know, anything like that. So it is like completely a totally fresh Italian defence, really different in a lot of ways. And having seen a lot of the guys play, like they still have a good bit of that you know, Azzurri, Catenaccio, where they love to defend and they don't take any prisoners or anything. But, you know, a lot of them are very good modern defenders as well. So Italy could be a wee bit of a sneaky one, but not having a real, like, a Del Piero, a Baggio, a big, like, talismanic player in the team, even this crazy wild card like a Balotelli or whatever, the defence might be part of their story in the Euros, as it were. And don't get me wrong, like, there's definitely goals in this team. They'll definitely score. They've definitely got good creation in midfield, but you know, this is my first thoughts when I look at this team is we could have a vintage Italian defensive, you know, performance that gets them to the quarters of the semis and that kind of thing. I think everyone in world football loves seeing Croatia at big tournaments because they're never dull. They're always throwing their weight about, and they've always got, for such a small country, a huge array of really talented, creative attacking players. And when you look at the Croatia squad, it's not just that, but they've got a really good defence cooking as well. They could be severely dangerous in this tournament, might take some big scalps in the group stages. They could even win this group potentially on paper. And it's not just quality and numbers that Croatia really boast here, like a lot of the top nations, but there's a lot of different variety in their top players. They can change the game, you know, as you know, they can change a game within a game by making substitutions and, you know, tweaking the formation, etc. So I think Croatia are one of the most dangerous teams we've seen so far. And what I said about Italy, I kind of feel the same way about Spain. You know, no Sergio Ramos, no Piqué, no Puyol. You know, there's a bit of a defensive generational kind of burn. Still got Carvajal there, and Jesus Navas apparently is a defender all the time now. But, you know, Robin Lenormand, Aymeric Laporte, Kubarsi, they're decent centre-backs. They should do well enough, I think. Full-backs can be dangerous, guys like Grimaldo and Dani Carvajal that we mentioned already. The midfield is very, very Spanish, but I don't feel they've quite got that magic of a David Silva in there or someone that can really, you know, like Xavi Iniesta. Like the midfield is still the same kind of prototype. You know, Rodri's fantastic, of course, at Man City. And otherwise, guys like Pedri, Baena, Llorente, these guys can attack. They're very good, hard-working, athletic, you know, Spanish players and all the rest of it. But it's not quite the same level as what it once was. And in attack, like we're probably going to see the Indian summer of Alvaro Morata here. There are a lot of good players in attack for Spain. You know, I actually quite like their attacking roster. Guys like Olmo, Oyarzabal, Ferran Torres, Yamal, Nico Williams, all pacey, incisive wing kind of forward types. So I think Spain could be very dangerous against any team, really, all the way through a game, because it's like for like substitutions in a lot of cases. And if you can keep the midfield ticking over and supplying those balls into channels and such, then Spain still will be dangerous, don't get me wrong. But I do feel that Spain have lost that golden generation is like off the table now. I think Croatia are going to win this group. I think that's kind of going to be one of the potential surprises of the group stage, just to see them sitting atop. And I think Spain could potentially be third. But what stops me from thinking Spain could be third is I can imagine the points being really, really tight in this group. And, you know, for everything I've said about the squads, I actually think Spain could beat Albania by the most amount of goals. Like, I just think Spain have that in them as a national team. And I think goal difference will be a really big part of maybe making Spain second over Italy in third. Now, Group C is going to be all about England, right? England have got a great group for them to collect 9 points, which I don't think is going to be a real stretch of the imagination here. Yeah, Serbia and Denmark, we'll look at the squads. There are no pushovers, we know that, okay? But when you see Slovenia are in the group first and foremost, you do just think, how many teams qualified? This is the Euros, you know? Albania and Slovenia? Feels like there's maybe just a couple teams too many for this one, you know. But when you look at the roster, they've got players that are operating at the high end of European football. We've got Benjamin Sesko in attack, of course. We've got Oblak in goals. And, you know, like across midfield and defence, there's guys that play, you know, decent enough level overall. But definitely one of the weakest teams in the tournament by a long way. It will be for them about keeping the scoreline tight and trying to nick any points here or there they can get, because Slovenia, you know, we've given the whole third place rule especially, won't be ruling out causing a shock or an upset against Serbia or Denmark. And when you look at the Denmark squad, I think they're always really impressive on the international scene. I think they're a good national team that behave like a club almost in terms of how they keep their roster tight, they keep consistent call-ups, and they play a consistent kind of style of play. And you kind of really know what you get from Denmark in a lot of ways. And I think they'll be too good for Slovenia. And I think they'll give England a real good test as well, don't get me wrong. But Slovenia won't be, it's not like France, England, Germany. They're not on that level. So Slovenia will be coming into this plucky and not giving anything up until it's done and dusted. But like I mentioned with Denmark, all the positives that go around them, they've got elite operators all across this squad from top to bottom, front to back. And it is hard to imagine they don't get out this group. And Serbia always have one of these squads that feels like it flatters to deceive. There's always good talent. There's always like 5 or 6 like really high-end players, but the rest of the squad maybe lets it a little bit down. And when we see this final squad here from Serbia, like the goalkeepers all look strong and good. You know, all 3 of them actually could be number ones for other nations. The defence, there's a few players in there that look decent. Pavlic at Salzburg, Milinkovic at Fiorentina, and then the midfield is star-packed. There's lots of talent, lots of options, different profiles of players as well. But when you get to the attack, Vlahovic has been decent for Juve as time's been on. Jovic is really at the end of his, you know, like Jovic has not been relevant for so long. Same as Mitrovic, and Ratkov I'm not even that familiar with. Oh, he's at Salzburg as well, isn't he? You know, so I actually think that this Serbia squad, it's maybe a tournament too early for some of the younger players that are coming through, and it does feel like overall balance, they are like really reliant on their midfield winning the game for them, because there's not much creation in attack. There's good predators and goal scorers there, and at the back they've got monsters that can make clearances, win duels and all that kind of thing. But it's going to be the midfield that does anything for them. And the last game in this group is going to be Denmark-Serbia. So it does make you really do feel that that will be a fight out for second place. And both teams will be keeping an eye on the third place standings, I think, as well. Maybe Slovenia playing England on match day 3. If England can think they're home and hosed on 6 points, perhaps by that stage of the group, maybe Slovenia could get, you know, what would be meaningless to England, but maybe very meaningful to them, like a draw or something. Rotations and all that kind of thing happen at the very end of the group stage. So Group C could be really interesting, you know, as it actually shakes out. But it is going to be England top of the group, undoubtedly. I mean, look at the provisional team. Now, I know there's going to be maybe some fat cut from this. Maybe it's just looks extra large now because it is an extra large squad that's been named up for this kind of preliminary session through the friendly internationals. But really, no matter who is cut, look at the state of this team. It is all top-end Premier League performers for the most part. The defence, again, quite similar to a few of the other bigger nations we looked at so far, but the defence isn't covered in international renown, as it were. You know, it is maybe similar to some of the other descriptions we've had, where it is going to be like the midfield and the attack that really make the big difference, because I'm not really a fan of any of the England goalkeepers, but England's midfield and the forward line, really like man for man, number for number, shirt for shirt, place for place in the Euros. Like, England are really top 3, top 2 kind of countries coming into this. And yeah, like, look at the squad. There's no way they're not going to scoosh the group. And for me, Serbia are not going to finish ahead of Denmark. So it'll be Denmark in second, and Serbia will be crossing their fingers for a good third place seeding. Now, Group D might be the home of one of the favourites of the tournaments, of course, France. And I think they've got a shout for the best announcement, you know, post or whatever it was, because I love this. And it doesn't really, you know, if you don't know the players by their face, it's not very helpful. But great post. I love it. And it's the kit as well. When I see that kit, I just think, wow, that is like a tournament winning, a history making type of kit, if ever I've seen one. Proper statement of intent with La Liste and going for it. And I mean, look at the squad. I got this graphic in case you want to see names and stuff. But like, again, you talk about high-end operators, you talk about world-class players. Like, they have got an abundance of attacking talent at their disposal. Maybe a little bit light in midfield on headcount, but what they lack in headcount, they make up for in abundance and utter world-class quality, with the likes of Camavinga, Tchouameni, Zaire Emery, and N'Golo Kante. Who forgot about N'Golo Kante? He's been sitting, chilling on ice, keeping himself good and ready for this sort of situation. Let's see how he does. I'm sure he's still going to play like two men in attack. Mbappe, Dembele, Giroud, Thuram, Coman. If you've not seen Barcola, by the way, wow. And Muani, who's been very, very good for France. Like, France are top two, top three teams for this, 100%. I don't think anyone is going to think that the likes of Ralf Rangnick's Austria, who maybe have one of the shouts for one of the worst announcements that we've seen. I absolutely hate it when they do this crap in alphabetical order. No positions are absolutely anything. But if you recognise some of the names here, some really good performers, guys like Sabitzer, Konrad Leimer, Xaver Schlager, David Alaba, and Marko Arnautovic obviously leading the team. And then guys like Gregorish and Grealish and Hinteregger. You know, they've got a lot of decent enough players, but I don't think they're going to get anything out of France. Same goes for Poland. And honestly, Poland, for me, are one of the teams that I never see them do anything at international tournaments. I always think they're an absolute waste. I think Lewandowski at this level is a proper choke artist. And like, the team looks fine. I think there's no quality really in defence there. I know Kiwior plays for Arsenal, but you know, whatever. The midfield has some talent in there with the Szymanskis and the Zielinskis and the Zaluskis. And yeah, Lewandowski is in attack. And there's still some other guys in attack that are pretty decent as well. But Poland just never really seem to do it. And when you consider to get second place in this group, you're going to have to overcome not just France, but another one of the teams that are certainly going to go far in the tournament. And that is Holland. And if we look at the Holland lineup here, it looks pretty slim, pretty lean, especially compared to like England, but this is the confirmed actual squad. And again, really high talented players. Somebody like Xavi Simons comes into this looking to be player of the tournament. He's had a real breakout year at RB Leipzig on loan from PSG, former Barcelona kid, maybe Real Madrid as well. He's one of those guys that's been around since he was 12, you know, and he's finally coming on the, you know, elite professional senior level. So could be a big tournament for him. And Holland have got really everything you want in here. They've got experience, they've got emerging talents, they've got like the young emerging talents as well. And, you know, the goalkeeper situation maybe is still yet to be ironed out, as this seems as customary in Holland post Van der Sar. But there's game winners in this team, there's goal scorers in this team, and you know that they're going to set up the Dutch way. And against France, this is going to be a great game in the group stages, maybe one of the best. But it does feel like Holland and France are going to wipe the floor with Poland and Austria, and they two will be fighting out with each other to not have a terrible goal difference, beat the other one into third place, and then cross some fingers for qualification. If I was pushed, you wouldn't need to push me too hard, because I don't like Poland national. I just don't think they do well. So I think Austria will finish in third. And Group E might be home of the absolute dark horse of the tournament. Now, when you look at this group, it of course points to Belgium winning it. I think we all know that. When we look at the team that they actually named, the announcement itself is up there for one of the worst ones. You can barely read it. Why put the stupid squiggle there? Why make it white font? It's an absolute nightmare. But as we know with Belgium, they've had this extended kind of golden generation go through the last couple of tournaments, and it does feel for some of them, there's always that chat of, is this their last chance? Is this their last dance? And what I think this Belgium team really has going for it, the other Belgium teams haven't, is it has that real, similar to some of the other nations we've looked at, that real kind of sandwich of real senior elite quality, guys that are like emerging talents, have been there, done that, and they're now starting to really get into their prime, and some really exciting up and coming like wonder kid types. Whereas before with Belgium, the whole generation were at the same kind of stage of their career as such, if that makes sense. Whereas now you've got that kind of generation that we're more familiar with at the top end of the experience tree, with everything else that I've just said there. So Belgium, of course, are going to crush Slovakia. Slovakia, again, they fall into this category of, how many teams qualified for this, man? But when you look at the squad, you know, they're not that bad. They've not really got much in attack, it must be said, but they've got some interesting defenders and goalkeepers and stuff like that. So they won't be probably as bad as Albania, who'll be, you know, easily the worst team in the group stages because of the group they're in, as well as the quality of their squad. And I think the Romanian announcement was the first one that made me kind of laugh out loud, because what they've done is they've put the clubs that the guys play for, and they've put their appearances and their goal record on it as well. And when I seen this, I just thought, this can't be real, but it is, and it's, you know, their squad. And, you know, Romania had totally escaped me that they'd qualified for this. And, you know, when you look at their squad, who did they beat to get into this tournament? You know, it's kind of the first thing I'm thinking. There is some talent in this team. Coman, Hadji, some of these guys have been around the block and can maybe open up a defence or two. Staniku as well. Dragusin, of course, at Tottenham is a big name. They've got a goalkeeper now on the bench at Atletico Madrid who played some cup games or whatever. And then we get a proper announcement from Ukraine, who I think will end up finishing this group in second, because between Trubin and Lunin, they've got two elite goalkeepers. Lunin's probably going to get the nod because of playing for Real Madrid this season. But in defence, they've got some no-nonsense really good defenders for centre-back and some of their full-backs, like, can bomb on and support their attacking players. In midfield, Malinovsky, Zinchenko, Sudakov, Stepanenko, Yarmolenko. Again, a real good bunch of talent, different profiles that can actually fit a functional midfield together. And in attack, having guys like Saganikov, who is listed as a midfielder here, Artem Dovbyk, Roman Yaremchuk. Like, Ukraine have got a lot of sauce in their team. Ukraine could be the streets won't forget team of this tournament, you might say, because although Belgium should run away with the group, Ukraine could have a really good time against Slovakia and Romania quite feasibly. And this could be one of the more interesting groups where you just look and go, oh wow, isn't that a fun one to watch? And really, I've got no idea who will come third in this group. But I tell you this, whoever does come third in this group probably isn't making the group stages. Let's say it's going to be Slovakia. And then we come to Group F, right? Now, Group F might be actually the most open group of this tournament. Portugal, I think we would all expect would win the group and qualify. But, Portugal, although they've got an amazing squad and we'll look at it, we've seen them have an amazing squad and qualify by the skin of their teeth by getting 3 draws and stuff like that. So, it's not beyond them to kind of be lackluster in a tournament. But they're in a group with Turkey. Now, Turkey are up there as well for one of the weirdest. It's not a bad one because we've got positions, we can read their names, fair enough, but they've added their date of birth and their appearance and goal records to the squad announcement as well, which is just baffling. Again, a very big squad. This will be trimmed down ever so slightly, but the Turkey squad has legit quality in it in every position and legitimately is a squad that will be confident coming into this and is well built for group stage tournament football. I think legitimately every defender there is a top end European, Europa level, bottom end Champions League centre back, full back. In midfield, when you add in guys like Çalhanoğlu, Kokcu, Ozkan, I would even put Yazici, Kilisoy, and Guler into the midfield category, but here they've put them in as attackers, so whatever. And then in attack, like Enes Ünal, Tosun, Yildirim, Aydin, Akut, Aktoglu. These guys have been ripping it up this year. Kenan Yildiz at Juventus as well. Turkey have got weapons. They've got some sauce, as we said earlier. Now, the Georgia one is definitely up there as one of the worst announcements. Trying to find one that's not in Georgian, especially from this graphic that they know is going to go out to everyone, was quite hard. So this is the announcement they made. I hope you do agree with me that this is absolutely terrible. But I found this post from a Georgian fan account on Twitter that translates all the names for us. And, the main ones you want to see there is Kvaratskhelia. Is he in the team? But Georgia have got a good goalkeeper in Mamardashvili. And, none of the defenders really grab me. But they do have players in their midst like Chakvatadze, Kaitashvili, and Mikatuadze, in support of Kvaratskhelia, who won the league with Napoli last season. Not this season, but the last season. And again, similar to one or two other nations we've looked in this preview, Georgia maybe have a wee bit of that Gareth Bale factor where they've got a superstar that can kind of lead the team to glory. And they've got a group where that's not out of the question, because the Czech Republic also make up this group, and really, I don't see much quality in this team, really in any distinct position. Now, Holzik and Schick, the Leverkusen centre forwards, definitely can get them out of a clutch and score some goals. I kind of seen that to our detriment for Scotland at Hampden, where the Czech Republic, I think, did they beat us? I'm absolutely losing my mind now, but Schick scored 4 goals or something like that. I'm sure they did beat us. And yeah, that's kind of how they are. Bit of, the strikers, they can get them fed. They're definitely good enough to score. They're not without teeth, Czech Republic. But against that Turkey team, and even against that Georgia team, I don't give them much of a chance. And the Portugal squad is legitimately top 2, top 3. I think that's kind of where we're at. I'm looking at France, I'm looking at England, and I'm looking at Portugal. I think these are the top best squads, on paper, certainly. Player for player, position for position, utter quality. And similar to the Scotland one, this is actually an announcement video that finishes in this image. And the video is quite cool. And if you know the players' faces, it's a nice kind of thing that they do for it. Thanks to Fabrizio Romano, we got a nice little list of all the names, and you'll see what I mean here. Genuinely, there's not a weakness in this team. There's not a bad position. Yeah, maybe some of the depth isn't great. I'm not a big Danilo Pereira fan or anything like that, but this team has really everything to win a tournament. With Ronaldo as the captain, the talisman in attack, the whole team around him are elite world-class talents, and the whole national team does thing on the same hymn sheet. It's why they won the Euros themselves when they did. And really, no matter what team they put out across all 3 matches, because I'm sure Portugal will rotate throughout these games because they do have such a big squad, they can probably target weaknesses, and like the Turkey and Georgia when they need to a bit more appropriately, whereas Czechs, they probably just go full strength and go for the kill. But I do think second is quite open. Turkey are going to take it for me, and I think Georgia will be one of those teams in third position that does end up qualifying for the group stages. So I think they'll probably get a really good result against the Czech Republic, and depending on how the group stages actually goes out, this could be a team that finishes third with 4 points. And that's probably going to be enough. Now that we've worked out who's going to get out the groups and who's got the best squads, I guess the next video we'll be making is who's actually going to go on to win the tournament. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this on screen. There now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Stay out of trouble, and I will catch you on the next one.